from Toxic Escape. I hope everyone's doing well. I want to do a video on dysfunctional families, but specifically the roles that we adopt in dysfunctional families. And again, the thing about these roles is that they're completely unconscious. It's not something that we actively choose, but what drives us adopting a specific role within a family is our own needs. And those needs could be security, it could be the need for creating a sense of control within the family, it could be a need to express ourselves, it could be a need to try and control our own self-esteem by manipulating other people, or by if we behave a certain way, maybe we can control other people's behaviours and maintain our own self-esteem. So I've kind of highlighted about 5 different roles that I've just seen, but personally I'm working with clients and just generally chatting to people. The first role I've come across is the UN peacekeeper, and this is someone who is trying to avoid conflict at all costs. They tend to try and placate the anger of other people by trying to calm a situation down. They're often overly agreeable, and they agree with anything they can do just to avoid conflict and disagreement. And they have an excessive sense of responsibility. They feel like they're responsible for everybody and it's their job to step in and mind everybody. And it can be quite difficult to deal with people like this because they're constantly trying to mind people, and that can frustrate people who just want to get on and mind themselves, or take responsibility for their own lives. And when someone is constantly stepping in, interfering, and their intentions aren't necessarily bad, but sometimes they will interfere. So that's one of the frustrating aspects of work with the UN peacekeeper. I can relate to that role because that would have been my nature before. I would have been someone who would have avoided anger and would have had an excess sense of responsibility, but not so much anymore. Again, part of that is I've done quite a bit of work on myself and my own self-esteem and my own emotional reactions to other people's anger or fear or anything else. So I find these roles start to slip away. As soon as we start to make peace with who we are and how we are, these roles disappear and we're much more present and much more natural in our relationships with other people. The second role I come across is the bull, and this is someone who just has huge anger issues and they react angrily to everything. It could be quite a minor or trivial issue, but they react with anger. Often they're aware of the impact that their anger is having on other people, and it can be used to control other people because they know people are afraid of their anger and they tend to placate it, as I said, especially with the UN peacekeeper. In other cases, they're oblivious to the impact. All they have is a huge amount of emotion inside them, and they need to express it in any way they can, and in most cases it's anger, and in most cases it's disproportionate anger. It isn't relevant to what's actually happening now. It's very difficult to talk to someone who is the bull, because you would probably just trigger off anger inside them and they'll react with anger all the time. It's very difficult to relate to them, and they tend to have relationship problems across the board in every aspect of their life, whether it's family, friends or work. So that behaviour doesn't work for them, but they can't recognise it, and they may never recognise it. The third role I've come across, I call it Judge Judy, and it's this type of person who just, all they seem to do is judge. They tend to sit there with their arms folded and just pass remark. They themselves often have anger issues, but it's much more inherent. It's not obvious, and it tends to be expressed through passive aggressive remarks or direct remarks aimed at just putting other people down or putting down other people's actions. I find with the Judge Judys that they don't necessarily do a lot. They tend to just sit down and pass remarks on everything. And again, a lot of their behaviour is about trying to maintain their own self-esteem, but really what they're trying to do is cover up their own insecurity. If someone has this need to constantly put somebody else down to make themselves feel better, there is an inherent problem with them. Again, it's very difficult to communicate with them. One thing I find is that they turn things around very, very quickly. So they are quite smart. So you could say something to them and they'll just turn it around just as quickly and point the spotlight back on you. Again, the judge, I find that they sometimes can relate better to others because they tend to shift that role around. So in some situations they don't adopt this judgmental role, where in other cases they do, especially around family members, because they feel they can get away with it. And that's the one thing about these roles, is that in a family situation, there's no rules. No one is telling you, there's no law, so there's nothing saying that you can't adopt these roles. So there's kind of free reign to behave any way that they like. It's not appropriate, and it is incredibly dysfunctional. The fourth role is seen as the joker, and this is someone who's trying to distract against difficult situations or difficult emotions. They're trying to avoid seriousness by constantly cracking jokes. Now, I'm a big fan of humour. I think humour is important, but there's a time for joking and there's a time to have real conversations and serious conversations, and it can be very difficult to, again, engages those people because they're constantly cracking jokes or trying to make light of something, which is quite a serious problem. And then the fifth role I come across is a delegator, and this is someone who just seems to be always busy. I'm too busy to do this and too busy to do that, and they just constantly assign work to everybody else. I find with these that these have a heightened sense of self-importance. They feel like, oh look, I'm important, and such and such a task, it's beyond me, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm too busy doing what I'm doing here, and we'll get somebody else to do that. Again, very difficult, very frustrating, because they're just constantly offloading work onto other people, especially in the family, and they're stressing everybody out. Again, I find with the delegator, sometimes they listen, sometimes they're more open to communication, and you just say to them, look, I'm stressed out over all this work, you need to take some of it back. Maybe they'll take it on board, maybe they won't, but again, I do, even though it's difficult to engage all of these people, I'm still pro talking. We have to talk. Even if you don't get the response that you want or need, it's still important to express how you feel. The thing about all these roles is that they're interchangeable. Sometimes people may adopt a peacekeeper role in one situation, and other times they may become a bull because their own anger is triggered. In other cases, they may become a joker because the emotion is too great for them, and their only way of dealing with it is by making light. And sometimes people become the delegator because they actually, again, they're in such a heightened state of stress themselves. They just like, I'm going to pass this work over here because I can't deal with it. Again, bear in mind that this is dysfunctional family roles. Dysfunctional means the family isn't functioning, it's not working. There could be health issues, there could be social issues, there could be finances, it could be psychological issues, and for whatever one reasons, things are not working out, and people have to adapt. And it's an unfortunate reality in families, and how I work again is helping people identify what role they have adopted, and we find out why they took that role. What is it they need from their family that is driving this behaviour? And then we look at alternative ways of behaving, ways which allows them to express themselves, to not take on responsibility that doesn't belong to them, find ways of controlling the anger, find ways of communicating in a way which is less judgmental. Even if someone comes to me and they have a judgmental nature, I explore, why are you judging other people? What is it about them that offends them, or within you that needs to put somebody else down? Same with the joker, we explore that behaviour. What is it about humour? What are they avoiding? What emotion are they trying to avoid? And with the delegator, it's very much about trying to get them to see other people's points of view. So maybe they may decide to take on a bit more responsibility, or start to objectively look at, well, look, I am having a negative impact on the family and I need to do something about it. But that's it, guys, just a quick video, just again looking at the family roles. Again, please share the video, it's much appreciated, and maybe subscribe to the YouTube channel again, much appreciated if you do. That's it, take it easy guys, talk to you soon, bye bye.